Another day in Yemen's bloody war. This exclusive footage was sent to CNN by Houthi rebel-backed Ansarullah media, showing the aftermath of a direct strike by a Saudi-led coalition plane on Saturday. Local officials say 19 men, women, and children were killed as they attempted to flee the Yemeni port city of Hodeidah, the site of an existential struggle between the US-backed coalition and the Tehran-backed Houthi rebels. As ever in war, the victims are too often innocents caught in the crossfire. As scrutiny grows around allegations of the Saudi Crown Prince's involvement in the disappearance of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi, criticism is growing around MBS, as he's known's other great recklessness, the 3-year-long war in Yemen. Today, the World Food Programme told CNN the number of Yemenis facing famine could rise to nearly 12 million, making it the worst famine for a century and one that is entirely man-made. The fighting around Hodeidah's port and the incessant Saudi-led bombardment, aid agencies say, has created a perfect storm, one that leaves the parties to the conflict and their international backers with blood on their hands. In the US, the drumbeat of criticism among lawmakers is growing across the political aisle.
One of the strong things that we could do is not only stop military sales, not only put sanctions on Saudi Arabia, but most importantly, get out of this terrible, terrible war in Yemen led by the Saudis.
Thank you very much.
In spite of the president's avowed support for Saudi Arabia, including rather large arms sales,
I would not be in favor of stopping a country from spending $110 billion, which is an all-time record.
here in Yemen, they're hoping all the talk will finally result in action.
Nima Elbagir joins us now live. In the wake of the Khashoggi disappearance, you had a lot of unity from Middle Eastern leaders expressing solidarity with the Saudis. How about in response to the threat of famine? Is anyone in the region calling them out?
So far, the silence has been pretty deafening, Jim, and that's even as the United Nations say that they are scrambling to pull together the emergency assistance they require. And it's not just leaders in the region who have been silent on this. We're yet to hear from the US. The UK has broken ranks with the rest of the European Union and pledged from their International Development Fund. But the US so far has said nothing, and we know that the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, is in the region as we speak. When we spoke to the UN after we put together this piece, we spoke to them again, and they said that, in fact, they think that those estimates of 12 million might be conservative, Jim and Poppy, that actually, potentially, they're looking at millions more, 5 million of which will be children. They're looking at essentially an entire generation being wiped out by this famine.
An entire generation. Nima, before you go, remind our viewers what the U.S. declined to do when it was found through your reporting that U.S. weapons manufacturers were tied to these airstrikes that killed Yemeni children.
Even in the face of Saudi Arabia itself saying that they think, based off our reporting, that they did cause civilian deaths, the U.S. declined to say that Saudis were not doing enough to stop civilian deaths, and they certified and continued with the arms deals, and we see what continues to happen in Yemen, Poppy.